Isn't a sports jacket in America a blazer?
Exactly.
Makes no sense.
Hey. I'm Bruce Pask. I'm men's fashion director of Bergdorf, Goodman, and Neiman Marcus, and I am really happy to be here hosting London Fashion Week Creative Conversations. And today we have Ben Taylor, one half and co-founder of Country of Origin, one of my favorite new knitwear brands, and for a country that's known for exemplary knitwear, that's saying a lot. Ben, we're thrilled to have you. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm happy to be engaging with my designer friends that I would normally be seeing in person about now, which I am happy to see all of you virtually and then soon in the flesh, hopefully. Basically, what we're talking about is obviously with London Fashion Week's first virtual platform. One of the things we spoke about is, part of getting together for the runway and catwalk collections is also going on appointments and seeing new shops and discovering new brands and designers. And you are one that I discovered at a trade show a couple of years ago. And obviously, I think a fledgling, but really strong and exciting new knitwear brand. So I wanted to kind of share some of these discoveries with our viewers for London Fashion Week. So I'm really happy to have you join us.
Strange not to be on the trade show circuit. I mean, we don't usually really do spring, summer anyway, but
exactly. Being a knitwear house.
It's not really our season.
And you work with your partner Alice, and you guys met in school. She's a knitwear designer, and you founded the company together.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2014 that we founded the company. We were kind of pretty fresh out of university, and didn't really know what to do with ourselves, so thought
we're in the UK, let's make sweaters.
Yeah, so we were living in a tiny flat in Brighton, which is by the sea.
Yeah, of course. It's been amazing.
It was very idyllic, but absolutely minute. I mean, I think the entire flat was smaller than our bedroom is now, and our bedroom is not particularly large now, but it was minute. But it's where we started the brand. Alice had a very small kind of domestic knitting machine that effectively...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, the old kind of 1960s, 70s, nasty looking things.
Give me a sense of space. Like, how big are those? I have no idea.
It's a tabletop thing.
Oh, that's your little one.
Yes, it is. Causing havoc.
We'll also let our friends know that you're a new father, maybe for a year?
Yeah, a little over a year. And yes, you might be able to hear him throughout this because he is a monster. Yeah, it's like the domestic knitting machine. There's a table thing that Alice used to kind of make samples on when we first started, and we didn't have any kind of manufacturing connections. Yeah, Alice kind of made them on there. We made prototypes, and then from there we sent things to various factories to see if they could make them. And
how long does it take to make let's say a full crew neck sweater on one of those machines? Like, how long is it? It must be laborious, no?
It's it's laborious, and it takes hours because with a sweater you have to knit out a front panel, back panel, two sleeves, a neck, and then you have to link it all together. There are still people in the UK that actually make them like that. They're not on a domestic machine, but still like a hand-powered machine.
Right. And so then you developed a small sample collection of how many sweaters for your first one? Oh, there, look at
just getting of Louis. Sorry, what was the question?
So you developed your first sample collection because you decided you wanted to develop this brand. Yeah. How many? You had few samples, and how did you kind of get them in front of people? Like, how did you start?
We started on the trade show circuit, basically.
Okay. So you knew enough about the trade show business that was how you could get your garments in people.
No, we didn't really know anything about trade show business, but I don't know how we knew to do that. But we did.
It all worked out.
Yeah, we took a gamble to do it because obviously it's quite expensive for
of course
the young designers to show, and I think we actually received a grant and UKFT helped us out on that grant, which is kind of from the government to help companies.
Sure. And you met your first series of buyers, and people would come along and see your things. And
we had one rail, that was it. And I don't know how much we spent on that, but it was a big kind of investment for us, but it was a tiny rail. I think it had 12 sweaters on.
I want to give a little bit of a sense to our listeners and viewers, like what the collection looks like. Because for me, when I first saw it, you work in very vibrant colors. And the ones that I first remember you doing were these color blocked sweaters where the sleeve was one color, the other one was a different color, the body. And they had, they all looked really playful and really vivid, but also really wearable. Like they have their history and sort of, it speaks to me a bit like a varsity garment or a school garments. And so when you walk by, I can imagine people being immediately arrested by the visual of that because they're very, very colorful and interesting looking.
We chose a very tight color palette, which has actually kind of been continued throughout every season. And it's pretty much a primary color palette. We were shooting to create a kind of timeless aesthetic that we saw in modernist art and design in the 20th century, and that use of primary color and the way that it all looked very fresh, even though, a lot of the stuff was particularly, there was an article, Kazimir Malevich.
Of course. Yeah.
And we actually went
constructivist.
Yeah. And there was a retrospective exhibition at the Tate Modern, probably maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. That inspired us quite a lot because it was all done 100 years ago, but it looks so fresh and it looks so, and that's what we're shooting for. And and that idea of timelessness kind of runs throughout the brand in the way we construct the garments. We're shooting to create something that lasts a long period of time and not something that's kind of fly by night, fly by season.
Yeah, for sure. I remember seeing that, obviously we started chatting on the trade show circuit we could talk about. And I met you because obviously I, walked the halls of these shows, always looking for something new and something exciting. Part of being a retailer and now having my own shop within Bergdorf Goodman, I'm always on the hunt. And, we struck up a conversation very early on, and I loved your color block primary colored sweaters. But what really kind of blew my mind was when I saw that you had done this sweater that was burrow patchwork. So burrow patchwork is a Japanese technique where they take different kinds of patching, and it's usually done in indigo, often in denim, but you had done knitwear, taking these different color patchworks and different cable techniques. So it's basically, let's call it a crew neck sweater that had a patch of a cable, a patch of a different cable. And I'd never seen anything like it in my history in menswear, which I would say is pretty vast, and I've been around for a while. And I couldn't believe it, and it really blew my mind. And so that's when we talked about it. I had to have it in the B shop. I'm thrilled to say that it was one of our top sellers. We sold absolutely out of all of them, and we had 4 different colorways, a couple different styles. And there's something about it that is, it's a really understandable sweater. I'm trying to kind of paint a picture for our viewers and our listeners, that it's, it's a crew neck sweater or a cardigan sweater, but this shift in the cable and these patches, like it's just enough of interest that it caught my attention and catches one's attention, but it's also just really easy to wear. And I was struck by that. I'd love to know, how did that idea of this burrow patchwork, did you decide that, that could be adapted into knitwear and we create this amazing thing?
We've spent a fair bit of time in Japan because since launching the brand, Japan's been our biggest market. So we go out a fair bit to kind of meet the various kind of buyers that we work with. And obviously we kind of get a lot of inspiration from Japan in general. It's such an amazing,
as one does.
Yeah. It's an incredible favorite. Yeah, incredible place to kind of visit for design inspiration. It felt like intertwining of two cultures. So obviously cable knit is a specifically very British technique of knitwear, and then combining it with that Japanese tradition. And I think there's actually a lot of overlap between British and Japanese culture. So it felt like a nice kind of tie-in. We always use very traditional shapes with our knitwear, and it kind of the classic set-in sleeve or classic 5-button cardigan, but imbued with just the kind of various design references within that, but not be, especially for menswear, in the menswear world that we work in, guys don't want to be too flamboyant. They just want a kind of a design twist.
No, I mean it's just enough. I mean it's just enough where you see, like, I have the gray version and I wear it, and people stop me. I would say every time I wear it, people are like, "Oh my God, where did you get that?" It's a gray sweater, but it's just got just enough of interest that it really catches attention, but it also is imminently incredibly wearable. And you and I worked on developing exclusive colorways, which was really fun because we went through your knitwear boards and all the color swatches, and I think we came up with some solids where you see the tonal pattern, so you really see it as a proper cable sweater. But then we did some where the colors were similar but different, so that they really see the patching. And it was interesting for me as a retailer to experiment with, like, what was going to sell more, what was going to be easier, and they all flew. Like them all. And I'm happy to say, and for you watching, Ben and I worked on a new capsule for this upcoming fall winter that we'll be having in the store as well, that we tweaked the color palette a little bit and added some new ones, and I'm excited about that. But it was a really inventive garment, and I think, I would say that kind of puts you on the map for a lot of people. But you've also had this kind of Malevich inspired, like, really primary color palette, that you've developed a real aesthetic for a brand, which I think is the hardest thing to do when you're starting out, is like showing a really clear point of view. So I'd say kudos to that. But that for me then is a perfect segue into the shop that you did for this past fall holiday in the Cold Drop Yards, where you kind of translated your brand aesthetic into a shop. And I thought it was so effective, and I'm grateful to have been able to have visited toward the end of the year. And I would be curious to know about that process, like how you decided to translate your aesthetic in knitwear into a space and what that meant.
Yeah, it worked really nicely. It's the little street that it's down is kind of really interesting little shops. And I feel like with our collection, it's so bright and colourful that we just kind of focused on the product and nothing else. It was literally just all about the product. So I think there was maybe 16 styles in the store. Now, it's a very small, kind of narrow store, but had a beautiful kind of glass facade. But we kind of opened it all up, and it was purely just about the kind of how we merchandise that product, and it was how we kind of merchandise the trade shows as well, because it's whether you're a trade show or retail, you're merchandising to create the biggest visual impact.
Yeah, so, grabbing attention, that's the goal.
Yeah, and people are always really receptive to brighter colors. People my eyes, basically.
That's great. It's a collection that's made for in-store as well as online. It's attention grabbing. And I thought the space with all just kind of keeping the pale wood, and to your point, like focusing on the collection, I thought was such a smart idea. And it was a very sweet space. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it was it was a really interesting kind of exercise, because we focus mainly on wholesale, so it's really nice to actually wholesale and online, but it's really nice to be in a physical space where you can kind of connect to customers directly. And I sort of spent quite a lot of time there as well, just to interact with people and see what their people's preferences are.
Feedback is so valuable, even as far as fit and color. Tell me how, because I know Russell Tovey tapes a lot of his talk art at that bar restaurant.
Yeah.
And is that how he found your sweater? How did that come about? Because obviously most of you know that Russell Tovey is probably the biggest young actor in the UK at the moment. He's also made his way across the water to the U.S., where he was just recently in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf on Broadway, unfortunately before that was shuttered on lockdown, but making amazing strides as a young actor. And he found your Boros sweater, and you guys did pictures of him, and it was really, really great, and such an amazing way to get such good publicity on somebody who's a real product person.
Yeah, it was actually the Bergdorf collab sweater that he was in, and Garson John did a little kind of shoot just outside his apartment block. Yeah, it was a very strange one, actually, because it's just a massive coincidence that he does a lot of his work around there, and our shop was literally next door. He I think he'd actually seen the sweater on your Instagram feed.
Oh.
So we have you for it. So because I think you did a bit of work with Russell Tovey way back.
We just knew each other. I met him actually at a British Fashion Council dinner with GQ and Dylan Jones, and that's where we met with another fellow English designer, Lou Dalton. Totally sidebar, I have a twin brother who is a set designer, and he was actually the set designer for his production of Who's Virginia Woolf, but that was after we met. But yeah, no, we just knew each other from the BFC dinners, just kind of chatting, fashion friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a bit coincidental, because he got in touch about the sweater, and we said, can we do some kind of shoot? And we got talking, and then about 3 days after kind of just exchanging messages on Instagram, I was sat in Spiritland, which is the place
yeah,
and he literally just came and sat next to me, and it was so bizarre, but he's a super nice guy, and he was really supportive. I think the shoot came out,
it's terrific. And let's talk about, just briefly mention Jonathan Price, known as our son John, who did those images. He's just such a great, sensitive photographer. I think he makes everybody look beautiful.
Yeah.
He collaborated on a lookbook for the B Shop for the sweaters we did, and I don't think I've ever looked better. And it was far, not the reality. Really painted a very rosy picture of me, which I was thrilled for. But I think it's interesting that, somebody like Russell and people in their industry that really know fashion and product, and they have a discerning eye. Obviously, he's very, very involved in the art world and taught art. So it's nice when somebody like that appreciates what you make, and it's a real testament to what you do.
Gus and John did some amazing photography. So we worked on that Russell Tovey shoot, but we also flew to New York to do the shoot with you, Bruce, and kind of did that in Central Park and Bergdorf Goodman store, which I think it really elevated our communications at that time, and it really helped kind of publicize the collection.
I agree, and I think it's important for like a young company without a huge amount of brand awareness to have something like that helps really get the message out there. I know we had so many people that responded to those images, and it's a great way to kind of make a statement. Certainly in the United States, there weren't a lot of people that were brand aware, and I'm happy that we were part of getting that out there, and that we'll continue to do so. The
kind of nature of the collaboration was quite organic, so it didn't feel, in any way contrived, and it
felt completely authentic, I think. I want to talk a little bit about what you've been doing the last couple of months, because I think it's really, really interesting. It shows to me what an entrepreneur you are, and you may be uncomfortable with that word, but I am always admiring people that really see a situation and want to kind of make the best of it and really see what they can do. And so you have kept on producing your knitwear, but you've also partnered with a friend of yours to create hand sanitizers because you saw an absolute need there. And that was, as I know from the US, and also having been in London right before lockdown, you couldn't find it anywhere. And that continues to be the case, that it's really hard to find. So you found a way that you could help in this environment. Give me a little bit of background about that.
The country of origin factory in Leicester is our workforce is there's quite a few people over the age of 60. So we saw the potential of the disruption that was coming our way, and we already had experienced that disruption from the fact that many of our it was sort of February time that it hit Italy, and that was obviously the time that we were supposed to be getting all our orders in from Italy, and then our show was closed in Italy, and it was all just looking quite scary. When our factory did close because of lockdown, we were left kind of twiddling our thumbs a little bit because we couldn't go up to the factory. The factory wasn't open, and everything just kind of obviously was closed. So we knew that there was just a massive shortage of hand sanitizer, and there still is to this day.
Yeah, of course.
There's simply not enough. There's too many people in the world to furnish every single person with a bottle of hand sanitizer right now. So we saw the shortage, and we saw that there was a number of different things going on. So there's obviously a shortage of hand sanitizer, but then there's also a ton of people getting laid off work due to lockdown, and the vast majority of hospitality workers lost their jobs, even regardless of the fact that kind of a furlough scheme was brought in to support people's jobs. A lot of people still lost their jobs. And we are based in London, in Peckham, which is a very deprived area, and it's always going to be, that area is always going to be more impacted by these things than other areas. So we decided to set up a social enterprise called Hand, which manufactures hand sanitizer. And instead of just kind of doing it as a charitable project, we decided to do it as more of a social enterprise to create jobs for people, and also support our community. So we donate 30% of all profits to charities, and then we also supply care homes and food banks with however much hand sanitizer they need in the local area.
But how do you even decide, I can help make hand sanitizer? How do you even get to that point? You make knitwear, and all of a sudden you're completely shifting your production. How did you even figure that you could do that? That to me is so fascinating.
Yeah, I think that as lockdown happened, there were so many people kind of left twiddling their thumbs that everyone was really receptive to collaborating and helping out. And so we had a number of people kind of tell us how to do it. But also, I mean, even the WHO has published a kind of the formula for hand sanitizer. So we took that as the basis and then tweaked it with the advice of kind of various, actually, we have some friends that are beauty chemists. So we worked together with a number of people to do that. But we had no understanding of hand sanitizer at the time, but we learned very quickly. But also because we've got that experience of small batch manufacturing, it's very different, but we know how to kind of organize a factory, and we know how to do things in a methodical way. So we thought,
so impressive. That to me is really, really fascinating. And that's why, applaud the entrepreneurial spirit, recognizing, okay, even knowing I can set up a small factory, I know how to do this, so I can do this with another product that's most necessary at this moment. I think that's amazing. And but also, the product design of it is really beautiful. The graphics are really amazing. I mean, I think it's nice to give a little bit of an aspiration to something that's obviously utilitarian and necessary, but I love the design sensibility as well.
Alongside just manufacturing, we've set up a whole brand to base that on, called Hand, and it's an organic luxury brand, and we use glass bottles and they're refillable. And the reason for that is that we saw the opportunity. When you create a luxury brand, the margins are higher, so the more profit can go back to the community, and the more living wage jobs we can provide for the local community as well. So
that's great.
It is a reaction to this current situation, but we want it to be a long-term skincare brand or lifestyle brand that can provide people with living wage jobs beyond this current situation. Because
of course. I think you've laid a great groundwork for that. I absolutely see that having amazing longevity. I think that's terrific.
Looking forward to a post-COVID world and what customers want from a brand, and I think it's about trust, and it's about it's about feeling that the company that you're buying from is more than just a kind of business, and it's rooted in the community, and I think that's going to become, I mean, it was always there, but I think it's going to become more and more important in the coming years. Right.
And as we talk about, obviously you set up this new factory for hand sanitizer, I want to talk a little bit about, because you and I have spoken about this, about having more thoughtful production. And I know that's been very much on your mind, and you've been working toward that in Leicester in the knitwear factory. And I'd love to discuss how you're working on making more thoughtful production for what you're doing, just about, assessing the impact on the environment and the globe. And I think that's an impressive aspiration. I think it's great that you're kind of taking that on.
All small brands have all brands have the responsibility to do that. So we only use natural yarns they're all 100% biodegradable. We've always done that. That's always been our kind of line in the sand, that we would never use non-biodegradable yarns. But then we've also done we've also put in other things. So we've reduced water waste, I think by about 80%, by investing in a new kind of milling plant, because once the knitwear's made, then you have to mill it. It doesn't use anywhere near as much water as like a denim factory, but there still is washing involved. We looked for ages about how to use polybags, how to get rid of using single-use polybags, because it just felt like just feels so incredibly wasteful, and it's hard. It's more difficult than it should be to find an alternative. There's biodegradable options, but they're not good. They're not good either, for a variety of reasons I won't get into. But so we looked into glassine paper, which is kind of paper that you use to you kind of get your hot dog wrapped in one. So it's kind of like a specially
hot dog in it, put a sweater in it.
Yeah, why not? So it's the properties work quite well. They're kind of splash proof. They're semi-transparent, so that really helps, because packers need to see what's in the bags. There's various issues with kind of, it's never going to be as easy to use as plastic for the packers, but in terms of its kind of environmental credo, right, it's a biodegradable, it is paper, but it's sourced from sustainable forests, and it seems like the best option available at this moment in time. So we got those specially made, because they don't exist on the kind of open market. You size, because it's usually a lot smaller. Usually it's the kind of like smaller bags that you'd get a bag of sweets in or something like that, or you just kind of feed him. So we've used a UK factory down south, who basically they do all the milling of the glassine paper. Yeah, it's constant work in progress, and we're always on the hunt to find new ways to kind of reduce our impact.
No, I think that's a great aspiration, and I think also for a young company like yours, it's nice to have that as part of your company ethos. I think it's great. Before we sign off, I wanted to ask you, what are you thinking for the upcoming season?
I mean, for Autumn Winter 20 collection, we built out the collection. It's way bigger than it's been in the past. We've introduced a couple of new yarns. We've introduced some kind of, and it's playing on the kind of varsity preppy side of things again. We've developed kind of merino garments with zips in that feel kind of like sports jackets, but not a sports jacket in the American sense. Isn't a sports jacket in America a blazer?
Exactly.
Makes no sense.
Hey.
Just sporting a blazer. But yeah, so we're just building out that collection, because again, we move quite glacially, you're not going to see a completely different thing from us, because that's our whole kind of ethos, is that it's a modernist design aesthetic, and that never really changes. But we've introduced new yarns, we've introduced a few new shapes, so it should be really interesting. We do like a chore jacket.
Oh yeah, I know it.
Yeah, so we've done that in a kind of a slightly more patchy feel to it, which
cool.
is slightly on the cable knit patchwork sweaters that we've been working
great.
on.
I think it's important to have a consistent point of view. I mean, I think having a strong brand identity is such a great like asset as a young company.
Yeah.
People really know what to look for from you, and that there are always going to be these little kind of variations in color adjustments and new developments. But I like that you maintain that really consistent point of view. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and I think it's about keeping we keep a core palette of, I think it's 9 or 10 colors, and then we'll bring in a few and take out a few every season, but that core always remains the same. And also the lamb's wool that we use, our core product is just 100% lamb's wool yarn. We stick to that, because also knitting is a difficult game in terms of manufacturing stuff, and to introduce new yarns, it takes a hell of a lot of development work. You could do a lot of development work, and then it might actually not make sense to introduce it because it's the wrong handle.
Like for me, I love the lamb's wool, and I know that a luxury customer likes a little bit of a softer hand, and the cashmere is to a lot of people's taste, it's very, very soft and buttery. I love the authenticity of lamb's wool. Like that to me, it's like a proper sweater. It feels to me very made in UK. I'm a huge fan. I wear them all the time. And I love the real authenticity of that. I think it's great that you stick with the lamb's wool. I think that's a proper sweater.
Again, it goes back to kind of keeping the design within the brand, because we could do so many, and we always have so many ideas about kind of changing it radically, but I think it's almost like a discipline to keep that core product, and because that's what we're known for, and it works well. So I think there's always a impulse to change things, and I think you can go too far, and then what is it? Is that a country of origin sweater? And I think that's when we have to come back to what our core values are really as a company.
I mean, it feels very English to me, which I guess at the end of the day, you're an English UK knitwear brand. So no, I love the Englishness of the lamb's wool. I think it's great. Well, Ben, thank you so much for being with us. I'm really thrilled to have this conversation with you. I can't wait till we can look at your sweaters in person together, which I think will hopefully be soon.
Hopefully.
Thank you for having a creative conversation with me.
Thank you, Ben.
I send you the best. Okay, thanks, Ben.
All the best.